Shift Happens Podcast.
Welcome to the Shift Happens Podcast, where we explore the latest trends and technologies transforming the future of work. In this episode, we sit down with Gino Degregori, President and CEO of Bravo Consulting Group. Gino has been helping organizations embrace new technologies for over 16 years. He's an expert on digital adoption and passionate about leading with kindness during times of change. Let's dive in.
Shift Happens Podcast. Shift Happens Podcast.
Hey Gino, good morning. It's great to see you again, buddy. It's been a couple of weeks since Shift Happens.
That's right. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So I can't believe it's almost 2024. How's your year been?
Oh man, it's been busy. It's been a great one actually. It's a lot of great things, great momentum as we're finishing the year. Great wins with you guys, as well as some government wins that we just recently received too. So that's good.
That's good. A win is always good. I remember, I think the first time I met you was in 2007 or 2008 when we were much younger, no white hairs.
Yeah, I remember that. It's been a while, man. 16 years almost, right?
Wow. So how has your journey been since then? I know a lot of good things have come our ways, and certainly we're grateful for that. So if you think about the journey, right, from that moment 16 years ago to today, how you've evolved, your business evolved, how the world has evolved, especially in the digital workplace. What are some of your observations?
Man, it's just such a different world now. I think when we started the company back in 2007, our idea, I mean, I'm a software engineer. So my background is I'm a developer, coder. I was doing SharePoint in the early 2000s, right, when it first came out. So it's like, oh, there's an opportunity for SharePoint, right, to really help our customers expand, develop solutions and all that stuff. And I was on-prem, right, the SharePoint, I think 2003 first, and then we helped migrate to 2007. So a lot of those, like what the world was 16 years ago to what it is now is different, obviously, for many reasons. But I know COVID and the cloud accelerated a lot of the things to make it easier for people to get access to more powerful tools and capabilities to do their work, right? To help them at the end of the day make better decisions, be more efficient in what they do, and collaborate, both internally as well as externally. So it has made us a lot faster in how we deliver things, as well as it allowed us to help our customers be more efficient at the end of the day. So
if you think about even today, right, with this new excitement around AI, it seems like, oh, this new thing, it will make everything easier. It will solve all the problems in the world. But then if you really stop and look back, you talk about collaboration. That's always been a need and challenge of organizations that they want to do better. They want to improve on it. So this concept of transformation has always been there. And technology has evolved and helped that to make it faster and better and sooner. But do you really think that technology, especially now, again, with AI, is really making that transformation easier or faster? Because at the same time, I'm thinking about, so for example, Copilot, right? It's cool. It's going to read your email. It's going to help figure out what's important. But shouldn't we be writing better emails anyways? So I guess my question to you and your observation is, transformation is great, technology is great, but at the same time, are we losing some of the core practices and disciplines that we used to do because there's really no technology that can help us?
yeah, let me use an example. As you know, I fly, right, and I shared this example at the Shift Happens. And yes, to the short answer is we are losing some of the fundamentals, but we're gaining so much more, right? And it's allowing us to go farther, right? It's allowing us to go faster as well. So, for example, I mentioned I'm a pilot, and one of the things that when I learned my first, lesson was with the 6 gauges, right? The 6 gauges in the plane is, your altitude, your speedometer, a few other things in there. I didn't use any technology, right? I didn't use like a GPS or all these different things. It was just no autopilot. Not, it was just, okay, my instructor was like, you just need to understand how to fly a plane, the, takeoff, land, and that kind of stuff, right? Then after I got better at, making sure I got the fundamentals, it's like then we started adding, okay, we got to a different plane. Now you got a GPS. Now you got an autopilot. Now you can really focus on what's more important, right? Not you got to still learn the fundamentals. Right? You still got to learn how to write an email. You still got to understand how you're going to communicate with people, right? But again, what AI is doing and the latest technology continue to through this journey of digital transformation, we can't look at it as what's taken away. It's more like, what are we gaining? What are we able to? What are those things that is helping us automate a lot of the things so we can focus on the right things? So now when I fly, I have to take off. I can't let the autopilot do it, right? I fly, I take off, and then I push the button to all my points to where I'm supposed to go already configured, right? And then I set it, autopilot takes over. Now I can focus more time, more brain power on other things, monitoring the engines, monitoring my passengers, monitoring the air traffic controller, monitoring the weather, right? So now it reduced my workload, right? And it allows me to start thinking and preparing and being ahead of the plane rather than behind the plane.
I love that analogy because now it makes me think of all the innovations that have brought us to this day, right? Simple things like calculator, right? Remember back in the days, forget the TIs, the Texas Instrument. It's like this basic calculator, and then I have to have a piece of paper because I can do basic math, but then I still have to figure out all the different, algebraic stuff, but then TI can do it. No different with cars too. I mean, look at all the cars today. My first car was an old Chevy S10 1985 pickup with nothing, no AC, no power window, nothing. You bring up a fundamental point. And I just think about sometimes the challenges because I feel like, not I feel like, but I just don't want it where we're so reliant on all these technologies and suddenly, I don't know, the internet goes down, the power goes out. We forget how to write. We forget how to do the basic things.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I mean, you still got to have the fundamentals. Going back again to the pilot scenario, when my instructor was training me, one scenario I remember, he failed one. So I fly two engines, right? He failed one of my engines. He also turned off the GPS, and I'm like, okay, fly the freaking plane, right? It's it. Like you still have to have the fundamental stuff, right? You can't just rely and be like, okay, AI is going to do everything for me, and I don't even have to think anymore. It's not like that. It's really, again, it's how is the AI and all this technologies enhancing or reducing my workload so I can then focus on other things and still monitor what we're expecting from AI. We still got to monitor that, right? We still got to make sure that things are going where they're supposed to go. I still monitor where the direction is. And, if it's telling me go to A point A, point B, I still got to make sure it's going, right? And you can't do that. So
in along that lines, right? So I know a lot of the work you do, you work with a lot of government agencies. Certainly you work with private organizations too, but what's the conversation like these days in digital transformation specific to the digital workplace? So we know, at least here in the United States, a lot of government agencies have jumped on the cloud. They're taking advantage of things like Microsoft 365. I'm sure they've seen the potential of AI. Are your customers excited? Are your customers worried about security? And what's the conversation like?
yeah, absolutely. The biggest fear is always security, right? Nobody wants to be hacked. Nobody wants to be compromised. Nobody wants to be, in the news, especially in the government side, or even Fortune 500 organization that we work with, right? That's the number thing. Number one thing is always security. So number two, and I'll come back to expand on that, but number two is user experience and adoption, meaning, okay, you got all these technologies out there. You got all this latest and greatest thing that's going to help me, be more efficient and produce better, faster. But how are you going to make it so that our users adopt this technology and it's easier for them to really hop on? It's all about the user experience, and you know this, right? I think a software engineer, just like me by trade, right? It's like we can build the best technology out there. If it's not user intuitive and user experience, it will not work, right? So, or it will work, but it will take a long time, a lot of investment, and pushback from the community or the users and that kind of stuff. So that's point two. So it's cybersecurity is in their mind, user adoption and experience is number two, and then the third one is simplification of all these tools out there, right? How do we make it easier? Like on the commercial side, for example, we got this large organization that we're working together collectively with AvePoint, and one of the questions is like, I have all these backups, I have all these N365 licenses, I have all the security. Like, how do you make it easy so I don't have to worry about all that stuff? And it's like in one place, right? One platform or one way to navigate. You know what I mean? So I just have to make sure that you guys have the support, you guys are implementing things, and my business is running, smoothly, right?
So if we expand on that, unpack that further, you talk about adoption, and you and I talked a lot about this. It's the challenge is oftentimes, especially in technology, people think about adoption as a one-time event. Oh, we're rolling out this new technology. Go watch video training. Go hire Gino and have him come 2 days, and then we'll be good. Doesn't work that way. It's like the analogy I always use is, yeah, when I first took my son to bowling, I made him watch YouTube videos. But then when we got to the bowling alley, I made sure that the guardrails are up. Because as a parent, number one, I want him to have a good experience, right? Hit the pins. Because if the guardrails were down, it's going to go to the gutter. He'll be frustrated. He doesn't want to use it anymore. So to the point around adoption, it's number one, it's the idea of sustainability. It's sustainable adoption. What's your strategy on really making sure not just the initial training or the initial learning, but through time, sustain the learning and have them mature and continue to leverage the platform? Your idea of simplification is really making it easy for people to do the right thing. We need to put the guardrails up and not expect, because we're not all tech people, we're not all IT, and they don't care. They just want to get their job done, get it done by 5 o'clock, and spend time with their family or hobbies, right? But if you make it much more complicated, that's why people go back to Excel and email. It's simple. It gets the job done.
Yeah, I don't have to jump through hoops, and I can just, kind of create something simple. One of my idols, and I really look up to, Steve Jobs in the simplicity when it comes to that, right? Coming up with the iPhones and how simple, like a 2-year-old can pick it up and push buttons and get to a game, right? So speaking of simplicity, but coming back to what you were saying about the adoption, one of the things that we've been able to successfully do is, there's a government agency on the federal civilian side that we've been supporting them for almost 4.5 years now. And they brought us in. Their biggest challenge is their workforce was in this, 50s, 60s on average, right? 8,000 organization. And this is right before COVID, Dux, right? We came in and we helped them implement this a way on how we do adoption and change management training. They were just getting to M365. They wanted to make sure that the users knew how to use SharePoint, Teams, the Power Platform, everything like that, right? And we had everything kind of teed up, and we were training, and then COVID hit, and everybody went remote. We had everything ready to go with Teams, and this organization was able to quickly adopt into leveraging these tools and still collaborate, even though everybody was at home, right? And we're still supporting we're still doing different sessions. So they invested heavily in this type of training, in this type of solution that we provide, so they can continue to make sure that they are leveraging and using the tool to the fullest to make sure that they're getting the value, you know what I mean, and supporting the that particular government agency that we're supporting. So
specific to this example, right? Let's talk about the evolution of it. So before COVID, they brought you guys on, they embrace you, you're still helping them. What does their workplace look like today? What is their digital workplace, setup these days? Like walk me through a day in the life of this organization, what people are doing, how they're using it, and how is it helping their mission?
Yeah, good question. So when we first started, they were using kind of SharePoint, right? Like just the basic SharePoint. They weren't on Teams yet. They weren't doing anything else. So we kind of helped them with okay, here's how SharePoint Online is. Here's what Teams is as well. And here's how you're going to be using the different tools depending on the different things that you need for that particular day, right? So the day of the life for them, we even had a day in the life of user X, right? And it walked them through, here are all the tools that you can leverage, right? And why you need them for a particular purpose. And that worked great. And then COVID hit, and now everybody went remote, right? They're starting to come back, but they're still in the remote mindset, and are able to now focus on, we got the fundamentals and the foundations covered. Now we're looking at more advanced things, right? So we're looking at some of the security components that are associated, some of the records management components that need to be implemented, right? And teaching them a lot of the things. And as you know, you and I know, Microsoft continues to improve as well. And there's new features and functionalities, user feel on where my buttons are now. All of that, you gotta continue to invest in that, so you don't lose interest in, like you said, go back to Excel and email, right? So that's what that looks like.
So what's the outcome like with this transformation for them, right? What's the ROI? What are the benefits they're seeing, and have they recognized it? Because at some point, right, they'll come back to you, hey, Gino, we're paying you good money, but what are we getting from this?
I'll give you 2 points. The first one is reduction in help desk tickets, right?
No
more.
So that's measurable right there.
Absolutely measurable. We were able to reduce the help desk tickets, and we work along with the help desk team to understand how the help desk or the tickets were coming in, and how can we address, how do we create frequently asked questions? How do we, are able to kind of knowledge base, all that fun stuff, right? And we're even expanding that later. The plan is to kind of incorporate some AI in the future, right? The second point is the measurements on adoption in the increasing usage, right? Both from how many users are utilizing the tools, the different tools, Teams, SharePoint, Power Platform, and you can show that increase in numbers, as well as the increase in data usage, right? How much data is being stored now compared to what it was before. So there's some really good points right there to allow them to see the return on investment, right?
No, that's awesome, because that's one of, oftentimes, right, the question that comes up. On one hand, decision makers, leaders realize, yeah, we got to drive adoption. We spent money on this thing. We know it's going to be good. But at the same time, it's fuzzy on how you measure success. It's fuzzy on how you quantify the value. So I think one of the big advice I would always provide, I'm sure you would too, is really look at a use case, not just a broad, let's improve collaboration, right? But it's really talking about, what does that mean? Okay, help desk tickets, let's try reducing it. Or project management, let's make sure, all the project management coordination and processes are better aligned and standardized. So definitely look at discrete business use cases and use those as a way to track and measure adoption and growth.
Absolutely.
Now, certainly, to make all this work, right, as an organization, there's no way you could do everything for your customers. So what comes to mind is partnerships. Partnerships are critical, and they're more important. So how do you think about partnerships? And I'm grateful for the longstanding partnership we have. What do you think are the success criteria in partnering with other organizations to support your customers?
Perfect. Let me answer that by stating Bravo's vision statement. It's not about technology. It's not about solutions, or it's about people, Doug. So it's to attract and create kind leaders that are impacting our customers, partners, and communities. So to answer your question about partnership, we are looking for transformational partnerships, Doug, not transactional, right? And this is where this world is moving towards, right? It's like, there's so much abundance out there. There's so much opportunity. There's so much technology, right? And the minute you shift that mindset from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset, the world opens up for you, right? And that's
awesome.
Thank you. That's why we push here from a core value, right? In our partnership 14 plus years, Docs, has been very transformational. I know it's been a great journey throughout in the last 14 years, but it continues to elevate, it continues to transform. And then, using you guys are examples is one way that we got other partners in different verticals in different industries that we do the same.
You're 100% right. Like there's so much work to do. There's so much companies we can support and help. But broadly speaking is the impact we have on the community as well. I highly commend you, not only for the work that Bravo is doing, but even for you personally, like the support you give with your alma mater, right? Like how you're helping out the next generation and not only educating them in tech, but really considering, how to grow as future leaders. I think that's very important.
If I could pull a thread on that from a leadership perspective, another core value that we're doing is kind leadership, right? It's I believe it, and you and I kind of been same kind of energy when it comes to that type of leadership, right? It's about being kind, about being grateful, and having that mindset changes so many things and attracts so many great things in your life, right? Yeah. And really see it happening in great ways always.
And I think that's the thing, right? Like these days, especially in the work environment, there's I don't know, you can blame it on COVID, you can blame it on the pandemic, or you can just blame it on the pressures that everybody's dealing with day in, day out. And just an ounce of kindness can drastically shift how you engage, how you work, how you can, because you don't know what people are going through, right? Every single day, there's people are going through stuff, and just coming in thinking about yourself is not beneficial, not only to yourself but also to the colleagues you're around with and the customers you work with.
I'm very passionate about this, and I really, technology will come and go. I mean, there's going to be lots of things, but at the end of the day, we're human. You know what I mean? And I saw somebody wear a shirt the other day, says humankind, but they put a space in between humankind, be both. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. Love it. It's like, it's also human being, right? Like we have to be human. And sometimes we forget, right? I wish we would just remember everything we learned in kindergarten. The world would be a beautiful place. Gino, it's been an awesome conversation. And before we wrap up, for our listeners, if you would provide advice, right, especially in this time of amazing transformation with Gen AI, with adopting the cloud, but at the same time, it could be overwhelming, right? So how should organizations think about to make shift happen, to embrace and adopt this new world?
The biggest thing with technology is going to, like I said, technology is going to be technology, right? Focus on not taking the mountain, but taking the first step. What does your organizational really need to move 1% forward a day? Not 100%. You can't change too many things. You can't implement things and expect like, oh, I'm going to implement generative AI tomorrow, and my company is going to increase profitability by 100x. You know what I mean? It's just, make sure you have the right expectation. Make sure you have the right, obviously, team in place, but also focus more on the mission, the people, and everything else will fall into place. That's my take.
People matters, tech doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
No, or tech doesn't as much, but people matters most. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, Gino, it's always good to connect, and I look forward to see you next. And maybe, like I said, we'll jump on the plane. Maybe let's do a podcast while we're in the cloud. That would be awesome.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Doug. One thing I want to say, I don't know, talking about kind leaders and doing this podcast, I appreciate you inviting me. I am starting a podcast called the Kind Leader Podcast. That's gonna be published and air early next year. So
nice.
Yeah. So all about that. It's all about people and how to, I want to have different guests and different people coming in, from technology to school teachers to everything, that we can make this world a better world through kindness.
That's awesome. And And for those who want to be a guest on that podcast, Gino will do a background check and make sure you're a kind person. If not, you won't make the cut.
That's right.
All right. Thanks again, Gino.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Shift Happens Podcast.
Thanks for listening. The key takeaway for today's episode were to focus on sustainable adoption of digital technologies, be crystal clear on measuring success and ROI, remember to focus on people first, and to lead with kindness as you transform your digital workplace. If you like today's episode, subscribe and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcast. See you next time.
Shift Happens Podcast. Shift Happens Podcast.